How fast should you be responding to offers? Ben and I will break it down next. You're definitely going to want to watch this one. We know that we're in a very fast-paced market right now, and there are expectations for immediate turnaround times on offer answers and getting contracts signed. I'm here with Ben Swavely from our team, amazing agent and a very strong realtor and negotiator, and he just went through a similar situation we're going to talk about in a second. But what I want everyone to know first is that the Code of Ethics says for the National Association of Realtors, it's Section 1.6, that realtors shall present offers objectively and as quickly as possible, and that also applies to counteroffers. So we don't recommend not following the Code of Ethics. I used a double negative there, but it's that important. We want everyone to follow the Code of Ethics. That being said, it may not be in the best interest of the seller or the buyer. So, Ben, why don't you kind of bring up what happened here with the home you sold over the weekend, because they had an offer come in right away. Obviously, you negotiated a great outcome for them. Why don't you explain this to everyone so we can give a case study?
Yeah, so to start off, we had a little bit of a dry spell in the beginning of January. So what happened is my sellers, we had that house on the property beginning of the year. And then first weekend in, all of a sudden we had all of these showings pop up. Mm-hmm. So first Friday, we had our first offer, and it was a strong offer. It was at asking price, cash offer, but it had a ton of inspections. So strong BFI, it was a good offer. But what I advise my clients to do is we have 2 days on this to make a decision. Let's let the offer breathe. Let's let some other people get through the house. We had, like I said earlier, 11 showings still lined up. So what we did is we let those 11 showings go through, and it actually produced 2 more offers. So even though that cash offer, that's like an ideal what you want to see.
Great offer. If that's all that comes in, they could have ran with it.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. However, we were actually able to beat that. So we had somebody come in 2% higher. They were able to offer to absorb all the inspection costs and the repair costs, and they did a quick to close. They had a strong BFI, and the agent showed that they were really easy to work with. And from a listing agent, like, I need to know that this deal is going to get to the end of the table or to the end line. And when I see somebody put that they're going to have, they need an answer in 5 hours, it just shows me they're going to be stressful to work with and a good chance that deal's not going to go through. So seeing that we had some time and being able to let that offer breathe, we were able to bring my sellers exactly what they wanted to say at the end of the day, and it worked out well.
Yeah, and you know, the thing about this business is that you either sell the home or you don't. It's all about the result that gets delivered. So I love how you let that play out, and that's a really smart way to do it. So let me just review for the sellers listening and that are watching, or people that are even thinking about selling. 1, know the response date and use that time wisely. 2nd, understand what's coming, what the other options are in the marketplace. This came in on a Friday, and you know, this is January, so you can't really look at homes late at night because it's too dark out, right? So even like someone rushing to get in that night probably wouldn't have worked out too well, just not being able to really see the property for what it is. And 3, you looked at the terms as well as the price, which I think is really critical. A lot of people just focus on one or the other, and like you said, it's the whole package.
Oh, it's important. I mean, you can tell just from how a buyer agent fills out the contract. Did they fill out all the broker's information correctly? Did they put dates that are on holidays? Did they put dates that make sense? I mean, there's these little telltale signs that you can look at when you're overviewing an offer with your clients that really show how the transaction is going to go and really forecast what that is going to look like.
And we just talked about this today at our team training about how to service listings better. That was the topic. And what we reviewed was just because someone asked for a response within a couple hours. Now, that didn't happen in this case. What Ben's situation demonstrates is that letting it breathe a little bit got the seller a better result. They got more money and they got better terms, which is what every seller wants. So just because someone says you have to respond by then, doesn't mean the seller actually has to. It's the seller's choice what to do. So that's where it comes back to Section 1.6 of the Code of Ethics, that you did your job presenting it properly, and then the seller made the decision about how to handle it, and it worked out. So I think it's really critical to understand you have to know what's coming, what the situation is. Now, the flip side is if they didn't have any showings coming up, I would imagine the seller probably would have jumped on that offer.
Yeah, we probably would have. Since we had that 2 days, I mean, definitely still advise them to take that time. However, if it was an offer that popped up and it was like we needed a response in 5 hours, that also tells me is how serious are these buyers.
Yeah.
If they're willing to give up this house over not getting a response in 5 hours, what happens when they get inspections and there's something wrong with the electrical or the HVAC? They're going to jump ship in a minute. So Just building off that, I think just letting it breathe really plays a lot.
And you bring up a good point here, because the goal of writing an offer for all the buyers that are watching or potential buyers, you may be getting other advice from your agents, and they might say, hey, you know what, we're going to force them to respond in 2 or 3 hours. That doesn't always play out. I've seen that happen where some sellers, they're not even in a position to sign the agreement. I mean, if this comes in at Friday at 5 o'clock, what if they're at a wedding or they're out of town or they're traveling somewhere or they're on an airplane? I mean, there's things that happen that don't let people sign right away, even with technology. And I want to be really clear about that. So the buyer that's willing to hang in there, it shows they want the house and is going to come up with a reasonable deadline. Those are typically ones, if you have a smart, savvy agent on either side of the transaction, they're going to advise them to do that, because some sellers may take it the wrong way, whether you like it or not, and that's just the reality of the situation that we're in. So wrapping this up here, what I'm hearing is that time is usually on the seller's side within a reasonable amount. I mean, you didn't wait 5 or 6 days. It was 48 hours. It's what they wrote up. And secondly, buyers have to have maybe a little more reasonable expectation. Just because our world moves very fast-paced, you don't have to respond right away, or it may not be in your best interest as a seller or in your best interest as a buyer to expect that kind of response.
Very true. I mean, you hit the nail right on the head there.
So for everyone watching, you're thinking about making a real estate decision now, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, take note on this, because the goal is you find the house you want to get it. You get your home on the market, you want to sell it. And these transactions are not easy to put together, and emotions do get in the way. Despite whatever Ben and I are telling people, it's easier said than done. So be aware of that, understand this, and look how it can play out pretty favorably for the parties involved. We'll catch you next week. Ben, thanks for coming on, man. You're definitely going to want to watch this one.